When using the type tool, be aware that there's two kinds of type you can create. There's point type and area type. If I was to just use my type tool and click once, I get a blinking cursor. This is called point type. Also notice in my layers palette that I have a layer that's specific to type. It's a type layer. So if I was to start typing, I can type normally, hitting return, and it will create a single line from that one point that I've typed out. As soon as I'm done typing, I can either hit the checkbox, usually located in the upper center of your tool options, or I can hit the Enter key on the lower right-hand side of your keyboard. Clicking the checkbox locks it in, and you can see even in my Layers palette it updates the text as the name of that layer. I can move this around using my Move tool and place it wherever I need it to go. The other type of or style of type is called area type. Instead of clicking once, I can click and drag. This will give me a marquee, and when I let go, it gives me a text box to type into. So if I was to type the same thing, notice that my text stays within the text box. I didn't have to press return in order to bring it to another line. If I need to change the size of my text box, with the text box selected and using my type tool, I can hover over any one of these edges and readjust the size of it, and then my text will flow, still staying within that text box. If I do make my text box too small, you can see it's happening here. Notice that not all of the words will be displayed, and if I look at the very bottom right corner of my text box, it's got a little plus sign in the middle of it, meaning there's not enough room. So you either have to change the size of it or change the size of your the type that you're typing with. As with the point type, when I'm done with it and I want to lock it in, I can press the checkbox, and I've got this in there as well. Do notice, however, if I use my Move tool and I've got my transform controls selected, if I do try to change the size of it, it'll change the size of the entire type and not just the text box itself. The only way, I'm going to close that out, the only way to change the size of the text box in an area type is to use the text tool. With this one, I can click on it, highlight my text or whatever, you can see the text box will be inside of it. The last thing to know is how to edit type once you've created it. I've got my type tool selected, and anywhere that I have type, I can click on it and highlight it and make edits to it. So if I needed to change the font that I'm using, this is one way of doing it, or the size, too small, let's bring it something we can see, there we go, or even the alignment or the color. All of it with it selected. Now if I was to, let's check that off, instead of having the text selected, if I was to select just the layer that I'm working on, so for instance this top layer, this is my first butterfly in the sky text that I created, I don't have any of the type selected, but I can still change the color and some of the font changes with it. So instead of it being Futura, if I was to choose Garamond, because I had the layer selected, it also changes up the style of it as well. Oop, way too small, can't see that one. But we can see that, and I can select this as well. So I don't always have to have my type tool and my type highlighted. I can just choose the layer itself to make the same changes within it.